Good morning and welcome to the sunrise safari on this, what I would describe as bitterly chilly, but perhaps some of you are laughing at me in the colder places of the world. My name is Jamie. I have Jean-Dre on camera with me, and we are coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands area, which falls under the Greater Kruger National Park area in South Africa. And not only are we live, but we are also interactive. So please send us through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. We love hearing from all of you. This is the coldest start to the morning so far this year at 14 degrees centigrade, which is 58 in Fahrenheit. It's positively Arctic. I'm wearing 4 layers and I still don't feel entirely warm. It might almost be time for beanies and scarves and gloves and so on. And if I think I've got it bad, poor old John sitting at the back there has got it even worse, because when you're driving around in an open vehicle, the wind chill factor certainly plays something of a role in the morning's temperature. And the wind is still howling, not quite as badly as it was yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, where the trees basically looked as though they were bent double. And it is still blowing a little bit of a gale. But maybe, just maybe, looking at the light in the sky, maybe it's blowing something away. Certainly didn't come with much in the way of rain, but look, there's a little bit of light on that horizon. Sam is out with Brian on the Wendy, so the vehicle named Wendy. I'm out on Rusty. And my plan for this morning is to go and see what the hyenas are up to, because every time I have tried to visit them in the last few days, they've been hiding away from me. Nobody's been home. I'm hoping that today it might be a little bit different and I'll get to see them again. I was watching when Sam was there, and they've grown just in the few days that I haven't seen them. They have grown enormously. There's nothing quite as impressive as a hyena cub's growth. Their mothers have the richest milk of any mammal species out here. And if that fails and nobody's home, then we'll go looking and see if we can't follow up on Tundi and Tingana from yesterday. So yesterday afternoon, for those of you who missed it, we had Tundi and Tingana, 2 leopards mating. Tingana being the dominant male leopard in this area, Tundi being the daughter of the famous Queen Karula. And I'm not sure where Karula was this whole time, but I don't think she's going to have been terribly impressed with the presence of another female leopard right in the center of her territory. It looked as though they were going to head off to their separate ways yesterday. There was a distinct, although they were still very enthusiastically mating, the build-up to it, there was a sort of distinct reluctance, especially on Tingana's part. One has to feel for him. He's looking absolutely exhausted. He's also got a puncture wound on his back right knee that looks like it's hurting him. He was walking very carefully yesterday. It was cold, which probably didn't help, but it's quite a fresh looking injury. It makes me wonder whether or not it wasn't acquired during the hunt of a daker. We suspected, we said yesterday, we thought he'd stolen that daker from Karula. But just looking at where that wound is and what it looks like, to me it makes me think maybe a horn or a sharp hoof. I thought about the possibility of Tundi having inflicted that on him during their mating, and that is a possibility. It does happen. It's just that the position of that puncture wound and the extent of it looks to me more like an actual puncture rather than a slashing movement with the claws. Of course, the moment a male dismounts from a female when they are mating, she turns around and kicks him very hard with her back feet in the stomach, so that is a possibility, but I think unlikely. So that's my plan for the morning. I think Sam has actually gone straight across to where we last saw those leopards, so let's find out how his morning's going and if he's found them.
Good morning everyone to the northeastern part of South Africa, the Sabi Sands. Here I'm working for Wild Earth. My name is Sam Chevalier, and it is quite a cold morning this morning. We have Brian behind camera, and as you can see, Brian is fairly warm with his thumb got a little scarf there, if you can see. So myself, Brian, and the thumb with the scarf are off on an adventure into the wilderness, and we're going to see what we can find. Yesterday, as you know, there was mating leopards, Tingana and Tandi, and a little daker just jumped past there. So we're just driving this area. Of course, I'm not very familiar with the roads, and so I'm still trying to figure out where I am and how to locate different things, but I'm learning slowly but surely. We're just going to drive very, very slowly. I'm going to keep my eye on the road to see if I can see any tracks heading across the road, as well as looking into the thick foliage, which has really, really started to develop. You know, since I've been here, we had some awesome rain yesterday, which is going to be filling up the watering holes, and it's all quite exciting being out here in the bush at the moment to see the abundance of life beginning to emerge as the rain subsides, and hopefully the cold. But yesterday was an incredible morning. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone, for a fantastic first morning drive on Safari Live. It was great. Chandre was an amazing cameraman behind the camera who helped me and gave me the confidence I needed to grow into myself and the landscape. And we managed to see hyenas. It was awesome. We were tracking the hyena to the new den site, and then we just went to have a look at the old den site, and there they were. The hyenas were there. So it was all very exciting. And then, which made me laugh quite a lot. I was just sitting back at camp yesterday, taking some notes and trying to go through, you know, the things that I did right and the things that I did wrong so far. Not wrong, but, you know, in a way in which I could do better, rather. And I got a message from Graham, who I haven't actually directly met before. And there I met him on Facebook. So we went on, as I'm sure some of you guys were there, on the interview with Graham in the south of France, Côte d'Azur, and he was eating chips and having a burger and chatting to all his friends. It was quite a funny experience. I really enjoyed getting to know Graham for the first time over Facebook live interview. It was great. So I'm sure some of you guys were all there. It was quite funny. We got back to camp, and some of the directors were quite upset because they, you know, stealing some of the viewers from the Tingani and Tandi site to sit with Graham having French fries in the south of France. So the plan this morning is to just gently bumble in a southerly direction towards the cut line and see if we can find tracks, as I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, all of you guys know that I'm going to be starting a bird list while I'm here, and I would love for all of you guys to interact and be part of my search for birds in the Sabi Sands. As I said, I haven't been here for quite some time, so let's have a look. Hopefully we can find the black-headed oriole. When I see that black-headed oriole, I might just do a dance. No, I probably won't, but to be honest, I really, really love the black-headed oriole, and I haven't seen it in over 1.5 years. So to see it with you guys for the first time back in the sands would make me the happiest man alive. That's just before we link to Jamie. I just want to say thanks to everyone for such a great few days, and I'll see you just now.
Now, Sam says he hasn't seen a black-headed oriole in 1.5 years. I'm starting to feel like this about the hyena cubs. Maybe it's a slight exaggeration on my part. It's probably been about a week. But here I am at the den with the grass blowing in the wind, in waves, and nobody's home again. This is starting to get slightly distressing. I seem to be having bad luck with our hyena cubs at this point. I'm going to go and check the other den site just in case they're still there. But as I said, cold weather, windy weather, they are quite often in the den. I know that they came out for James yesterday. I'm going to try not to be offended by that in any way. We'll go see if they're not at the other den site. Of course, I am only joking. The adults are probably out scavenging something. And the cubs without the adults are not nearly as brave. They do occasionally come out by themselves, but they tend to be a bit more cautious. I'm fairly certain that if there were any on the other side, they would have come by to say hello. Somebody has urinated just next to the den site, so they are around here. They have been around here. Oopsie. My navigation skills letting me down here. I really drove Gendre into this tree. Wouldn't be the first time, hey, Gendre? I have on occasion accidentally put Gendre in a couple of trees before. It does happen, and the wonderful thing about Gendre, of course, is that he doesn't complain in the slightest. In fact, he might not even mention it until you turn around and realize that he's sort of trying to film whilst covered in a tree and leaves. Oh, I got excited there for a moment, but I think it's just a log. It's a hyena log. The navigation of this hyena den is a little bit more tricky than their other den sites that they have chosen. It was worth checking. But nobody's home. All right, on to plan B. Let's go and see. I feel as though a wild dog sighting has been long overdue. Perhaps we'll get one of those this morning. That's definitely something. I haven't actually heard any reports on where the Investic pack or the Sands pack are, which is quite unusual. We usually know roughly that is, where they are at not any one point in time, but every couple of days they'll pop up at one of the lodges and we get that report from the guides. And it's been a long time since we last saw them. And I bet by the time we do see them once again, having spoken about the hyena cub growth, I imagine that those pups are going to be almost indistinguishable from the adults. One thing we have remarked upon is the phenomenal springback of the grass species. And of course, the most obvious one was the one that we started by looking at the top of the hyena den. Virginia, you were wondering which particular grass species that is. It's very pretty. And it's a type of signal grass, but I cannot remember exactly what it's called. So I'll double check for you, Virginia, when I have a moment. It's just sort of in the recesses of my memory. My grasses have got rusty because I haven't seen them in so long. And of course, this is the first time that I've been in the Sabi Sands that I've seen some of these grass species, because I arrived in winter and from an area that was not totally different, in about 100 kilometers of here, so about just under 50 miles away. But it was very different type of ecosystem. So this actually, after the rains that occurred in early March, this is the most grass I have seen while I've been here, and I'm still getting to know the individual species. Some of them, of course, incredibly familiar, such as my favorite, which is the Natal redtop. I stopped for that a couple of days ago. And there's another one that I want to show you, which is the sawtooth. There we go. Here's some sawtooth lovegrass. That was very convenient. And the Eragrostis family is one of the most, let me jump off, one of the most nutrient rich of the grass species. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I am most definitely tangled up here in a combination of cables. I quite like that as a collective noun, a combination of cables. So there we go. We've been talking about a lot of the different grass species. A saw-tooth lovegrass, Arathusa superba. And you can see with the type of seeds that they are, that slightly jagged edge, you can just immediately see what dispersal method these seeds favor. So when they've ripened and they fall off, they attach to the fur of passing animals or the trousers of passing people, and that is how they move off on their way. Now, incredible to see. I mean, this looks like it's actually panicum grass. So buffalo grass, or Panicum maxima, one of the best quality grasses in terms of nutrition and in terms of palatability for the animals. It's so lovely just to see the grasses starting to grow once again. I really thought it was a little bit too late. Last one. This is a good spot. There's some signal grass, and this is what I think the animals have been sneezing on whenever they've stopped to feed around quarantine. It's got very, very sticky seeds, and I noticed it was making my legs itchy when I was wandering around preparing for fireside chat. And I think that's what's making the animals sneeze on quarantine as they feed on it, and maybe even Brian sneeze when he drives past it. And myself, definitely myself as well. Okay, we'll stop there before I start finding other species of grass to show you. Now these are all of the grass species that I've just shown you now are very familiar to me from the area that I used to work in. That tufted grass on the top of the hyaenodon that Virginia asked about is familiar, but I cannot remember its exact name. It will come to me though. I'll get it for you, Virginia. It will come back to me. Grasses have always been one of my favorite things to stop and to look at and to learn about, just because they have such an important impact or such a knock-on effect for all of the other life that goes on around here. The balance here between the grass layer and the tree layer, the woodland layer, is absolutely essential to this area's unique character of the ecosystem. No, nobody's home there either. I just thought I'd check. We were here anyway. Wait, is that a... No, that's a log, right? Okay, so Judy H., you've suggested that the tufted grass on the hyaenodon might be Chloris... What was it? Chloris rox juliata? Something. Rosbergiana. There we go. Thank you. I'm going to double check. I think you could well be right. I'm not sure. I'd love to know what the common name is. It's so familiar. It's in the back of my mind. The Chloris is absolutely right. That tufted fluffiness that grass has of it. If I see any close to me, I'll go and grab it quickly and we can have a closer look. Now I'm making my way towards Sydney's Dam, just because you never know, I've had some brilliant luck at Sydney's Dam before I go back down south to help Sam out look for those leopards. And we have a question from Tony whether this area has alligators. And we don't have alligators, we have the southern Nile crocodile, the largest species of crocodile in Africa. We get some absolutely tremendously enormous specimens, less so here in this particular, in our little patch of the Sabi Sands, and that's because we're not close to any major rivers, and especially within this drought, a lot of the dams at certain points nearly dried out completely. So whilst we don't get alligators do not occur in Africa, very similar animal, but slight differences. Good morning, waterbuck. For example, the teeth structure in alligator versus crocodiles and slight differences in size. Is little waterbuck that we often see around Sydney's Dam. There's no two females there. I don't see any of the waterbuck calves that are often around here. But that's one animal that whenever we see them approach Sydney's Dam, they approach with serious caution. And that's because all animals have an instinct that open bodies of water like that could well have crocodiles. And we, of course, sometimes take for granted that a dam where we didn't see a crocodile that one day will automatically not have one the next day, and that is most definitely not true. Crocodiles, of course, capable of covering enormous distances over land when they choose to and when they want to move somewhere different. We've got some impala up ahead of me, but I'm going to go check anyway. But Tony, you were wondering how many different species of crocodile there is? Just the one. It's just the Nile crocodile in this particular part of South Africa, and in fact in South Africa at all. A essentially purely freshwater species. There might be the odd exception in estuary and lagoon areas, but it is a pure freshwater crocodile species. And I have seen some monster crocodiles in my time in the bush. 6 feet long, longer. Christopher, as we make our way to Sydney's Dam, you've said that Sydney's Dam is your happy place, just like the hyena den is my happy place. I hope that your happy place proves to be a bit more productive than my happy place, but I know exactly what you mean. There's something, because I think we've got the long distance view across Sydney's Dam. It is across our northern boundary. You know, I knew that those hyenas were up to scavenging on a large carcass. I just had a feeling that that was why we were not seeing them as regularly. And they've dragged something back, something's leg. It's a big animal. I'm not entirely sure what it might have been. Maybe something like a buffalo killed by the lions. But yes, that's why we haven't been seeing our hyenas as regularly, because I think they've been doing what hyenas sometimes do. We don't necessarily see it all that frequently on the live drives, but a lot of the times when a hyena clan finds a large carcass that they have to themselves, they will spend the day there and most of the night there as well. They'll go and they'll just lie next to it and they'll feed, just like lions do. It's simply because I've started to suspect that when we didn't see them regularly for days at a time, because there was a period where the adults were constantly around the hyena den. That doesn't mean the cubs aren't there. They're home, they're hiding away in the den. All three of them have high-ranking mothers, which in hyena society means all three of them will have food being dragged back for them rather than having to travel to the carcass themselves. All right, here we are at Christopher's happy place, and what a happy place it seems to be. One baby waterbuck, two baby waterbuck, three baby waterbuck. And I know exactly what you mean, just because we get this beautiful, long, clear distance view. Sorry, there's somebody just trying to call me on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Look at those three. Trio of trouble on the right there. Too cute. Standing by. It's a negative. Both Misikais are inactive. I'm at Sydney's Dam now. There's not much here. Just some water bucket impala. Oh. Copy, the morning's still young. I might find something for you yet. That would be very nice. Yes, please. Copy that. Thank you very much. I might send Sam. I think he's a bit closer. There's a fish eagle as well there, sitting on the dead log, a bit far away. He's right at the water's edge, sitting on a dead log. Gomosh, Nene. So the reason I had a chuckle during that entire game drive conversation was basically Taxon said to me, would you like me to find something? Or no, he said, have you found anything for me? I said, no. He said, well, in that case, maybe I won't find anything for you. So I had a good laugh and I said that I would try and find him something still, and he's actually found Tingana, exactly where we left Tingana, and that's why he was calling me. Now I think Sam might be a little bit closer. So I'm going to try and give him a hand since Sam has just arrived with us. He has just started, and there's nothing more exciting than a leopard sighting to get you going. And I think it might be quite nice if we could direct him in there. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get hold of him on the Game Drive channel. If I can't do that, I'm going to have to send the message through a different way. But isn't that exciting? We'll make our way towards that area. It's just Tingana. Tundi has moved off as we predicted she would do. Sam. Sam, they've located Tingana where I left him last night. So if you go down Shabam Road, there's almost at the junction of the Gowrie Main, there's another road that moves off to the east. You'll be able to see the off-road tracks from there. Copy that. Let me know how you get on. All right, off Sam goes to go and see Tingana for the first time. And James, yes, there was a dead elephant up. That was something I discovered, that there was a dead elephant on Buffelshoek, so the northern part of our boundary. Probably the drought just proved to be a little bit too much for it, and it succumbed. Might be an older elephant, but yes, that is what those hyenas were feeding on. And I didn't stop for too long at that bone because I wanted to get across to Sydney's in case there was something exciting there. But I think we should go back and actually closely examine that bone and just have a look at it, because it might teach us a little bit about the structure of the foot, if that is in fact an elephant bone. It looks big, but I'm not sure if it's big enough to be an elephant. Let's go see, let's go investigate. Yay, we've just done a full circle. I hope you all enjoyed that very short tour of Sandy Patch Road. It's amazing how this road has now been redirected since most of it washed away a couple of days ago. One of the reasons why Brent has disappeared off your screens temporarily is that he has been in the process of filming the erection of the mast at Cheetah Plains. And Chris, you were wondering if we've got any kind of rough date. I haven't put Chandra in a very good position here. Sorry, hold on. Any kind of rough... Can't get Rusty into reverse. When we will be starting at Cheetah Plains. Oof. My hands are too cold for this. And the answer is very, very soon. I cannot give you an exact date. We were in theory going to start on Cheetah Plains to... What day is it today? Thursday. So it was meant to be tomorrow. But with this weather and with this wind, it might have set the erection of the mast back a little bit. We'll just have to wait and see. It's either going to be today or sometime on the weekend, and we're all so excited. I can't tell you just how excited we really are. This is going to be something tremendous for us all to look forward to. Sorry, distraction. The seeds of this particular plant have this incredible aniseed smell. It's also something that I haven't realized I've missed out on while I've been looking, or while we've been in the grips of this drought. And it just smells, it smells like aniseed. It smells like, oh, sorry, Jandre. It smells like licorice. Yeah, have a smell of that when you can, Jandre.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's such a nice smell. You're not, oh no, Jandre's pulling his face.
I'm not a fan of licorice.
Isn't that interesting? Some people, that's one thing about licorice that is really very true. You either love it or you hate it. All right. Heavy. This is a very heavy bone. And this is probably part of a leg, or it's definitely part of a leg. That's the way that it is structured. And this is probably, if it is elephant, it is the lower part of the leg. It's very difficult to tell exactly which part it is from. You can see the joints. Ugh, so gross. You can see the joints there, the way that the leg bone moves. I definitely won't be putting my hands anywhere near my face until the end of this drive, when I've had a chance to wash them. And the very, very smooth joints that tells us this is not the end point of this particular bone, and that there is a joint that flows in there and rubs smoothly along there. My guess is that if it is an elephant, now the way that an elephant's foot is structured is completely unlike ours. So although they look flat-footed, they are absolutely not. You know what, I'm going to dispose of this while I describe what I mean. You get the idea. It's quite big, it's quite heavy. I'm going to go put it down now. It's disgusting. Perhaps I should take it as a peace offering to the hyena den. They might come out and say hello. So an elephant's foot, they actually walk, if you imagine that this is the ground, they've got 5 toes that they actually walk on. So they essentially walk on their toes like this, with very, very extended metacarpals and metatarsals up at the side. And then underneath here, where the heel is, they've got a spongy cushion that cushions the blow. So it rests kind of on that cushion and sort of half on their toes. And then as the elephant walks, that foot spreads and spreads its weight. I think Brent's got a lovely picture of it. I don't, unfortunately, not with me. Gross. Ugh. Didn't entirely think that through. In the process of bringing back food towards the den, right, I didn't want to be away from the vehicle for too long, just in case Sam needs some assistance in locating that. Oh, it sounds like he's found it. I remember my first leopard sighting so vividly when I first started presenting. I believe my first proper leopard sighting was Shadow and Sindile back in the day. And it was the first leopards I'd seen since I'd started presenting. The very first leopard sighting that I ever had in the Sabi Sands entirely was when I came for my interview. And when I came across for my interview drive, I was on the back of the vehicle with Brent, I think. So either Brent or it might have been Scott. I was in final control for a bit, and then I went on the back. I think I went on the back with Scott initially. And we drove back, and as we got back to camp, Wendy caught a light. I smelled some smoke burning, and all of a sudden there were flames pouring out of the back. It very, very seldom happens, but as you know, we've got a lot of electronic equipment, a lot of wiring. Sometimes, every now and again, things go wrong. And what that meant for me was a 3-hour solo the next day. 2 2 3-hour solos. But my first sighting was Tingana with Brent early that morning. And speaking of Tingana, Sam has made his way there, and this is very exciting. Let's head across.
We are here, everyone, with the male leopard Tingana. This is my very, 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 very first sighting here at WildEarthTV with a leopard. It is honestly so exciting, and it's so great to be back with such an amazing creature that dominates this landscape. I feel extremely privileged. Thank you very much, Jamie, who got hold of me on the comms to help me get to this position. She's been amazing as a co-presenter out here in the bush already. It's my first day with Jamie, and here we are with a sleeping Tingana. That's incredible. I feel like this is my first meeting with you. My name is Sam. I really hope that we can have a good time together and experience the wilderness. I'm here with Brian and Brian's thumb. We're all very excited to be in the presence of you, Tingana. You are such a beautiful looking leopard. And from what I was told yesterday, you were mating all day. I mean, I was inside where the directors were, and I was watching. I'm just going to turn this down quickly. Ooh. I'm just turning down the volume on the game vehicle. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I was saying was, so this is my first time here with Tingana, and it's an incredible opportunity to be back here. And yesterday I was told, well, I was watching Tingana mating a number of times, and I've only ever seen that and experienced that once during my training. I actually had to spend a whole day with mating leopards on my own so that I could take guests to go and have a look at them later. So I spent a whole day, just in this beautiful wilderness learning about how the reproduction works with leopards. Tingana is, look at that beautiful coat. It's incredible, hey? And he is mating with Tundi. So I am still yet to meet your match, Tingana. Wow. Look at that tail. Can you see that the white tip of that tail? That is a very important characteristic of the leopard. As when it goes hunting in the bushvelds, it uses it to show animals that it's been seen. It's almost like a white flag. Hi Clayton, how are you doing? Thanks so much for joining me on my second morning safari. Yes, I have seen a wild leopard before. I went during my training. I went on foot a number of times and came across wild leopards. So I've seen them a number of times. I've actually seen, where I was working last year in the Cederberg Mountains. I was working for the Cape Leopard Trust, which is a leopard that is literally half the size of the Savannah leopard. And it has a territory almost 10 times the size of a Savannah leopard. And to see the Cape leopard is almost impossible. And I haven't seen a Cape leopard, let me just tell you that. I mean, I lived there for 5 months. And so it's exceptionally different. Exceptionally different animal compared to the Savannah leopard. But yes, I've also had the amazing opportunity to experience a jaguar in the wild, which was last year when I was traveling through South America. I went and I was staying at my girlfriend at the time's house, and we went out and she took me on an amazing safari through the Pantanal, where we saw many different types of animals that I had never seen before. And we saw a jaguar, and that encounter was incredible. So I've been very privileged in my life to see some incredible looking cats, and I really hope to see many, many more. So thank you, Clayton, for asking that question. We're just looking a little bit closer now to this leopard. You can see that spot pattern. The leopards have a very significant spot pattern, otherwise known as rosettes, and that can help us identify different leopards. If you actually have a look at the front, I don't know if Brian will be able to get closer to the front, but when we get a better position, which I'm going to try and do a little bit later, I'll show you that leopards actually have different spot patterns, and that's the way in which we can identify leopards from each other. But what we can see significantly from this photo, or from this picture, is the paw. Can you guys all see the paw print? Can you see at the back, at the bottom of the paw, are those 3 lobes? And that's a very defining feature of the leopard when you go tracking. When you go looking for a track, of course, the leopard's tracks, especially the male leopard, is much bigger than the females, but those 3 lobes at the back are very significant. The lion also has lobes at the back, but they're slightly different to that of the leopard. And potentially a little bit later, when I have my mammal book out, we can go through and actually look at the different type of tracks between a leopard and a lion. So it's incredible. Learning how to track a leopard in the wilderness, takes much more than just your thinking mind. You really, really need to connect to the landscape and to connect with the animal to understand and almost imagine where it might be. You can't use just your rational mind to track an animal. You must smell the sense of the bush. You must be able to intuit everything around you. Jim from Wisconsin, that's a great question. Thanks very much for that. I've only actually ever experienced a lion. So the question was, what would happen now if a male lion came and walked into the sleeping male leopard? What would the scenario turn out to be? Well, of course, with every single interaction, we're going to have a different outcome. But I think the general kind of outcome would be that the leopard would try and get away as fast as possible. And Jim, you'll see that a leopard is very, very adapted to climbing trees. So you'll see, potentially, I would say that this leopard would try and find the closest tree to climb. And because it has paws that are able to go around the tree, it can climb its way up the tree to the top. And this is something that the lion cannot do. So lion, being the top of the food chain as the dominant predator, will look to sometimes attack a leopard to decrease the amount of predators in the area so that it has more prey for itself. So there's always a horrible relationship at times between the leopard and the lion. On one occasion when I went tracking out in the bush, but I was on vehicle, and we were driving and we located a leopard, and all of a sudden a pride of lions came. And you can imagine, leopards are solitary animals. They don't live in groups, whereas lions do. And when a leopard comes across a pride of lions, the cheapers, you can imagine that's a much, much scarier experience. And the leopard actually did climb up a tree to get away from the pride of lions. So that was an incredible encounter that I had once before with that. And very interestingly enough, as I've said before in the previous drives, that I'm very, very, very interested to the way in which animals adapt to their landscapes and how they fit in amongst the ecosystem. And with the jaguar in the Pantanal, I just want to create this relation to a jaguar. Is how the jaguar has a landscape where the water rises at a time of year. I think it's November around. Yeah, so I was there in September last year, which means, and it was dry, so that I could walk around through the Pantanal, which I did. But later on in the year, I think it's around January, February, the rains come in the Pantanal, and the water literally floods the area. It's incredible to see, and I actually have a few pictures of what friends gave me while I was there. But jaguars will then swim across to different parts of different little islands where they can move up and climb up trees, and it's incredible how predators and animals adapt to their landscapes. And it's taken millions of years for them to thrive in these conditions and to understand how they can live. So these are all very, very interesting things, and understanding the mindset of a leopard is something that I would love to explore with all of you in greater detail in the future. But with that, we're going to sit here and see if we can get a better position with the leopard. If not, we'll sit at this one and we'll see what's happening with Jamie. See you now.
Chandra and myself sitting here on the Arctic tundra. Well, not quite, but it kind of feels a little bit like the Arctic tundra. The impalas are all bunched together, absolutely freezing. See how dark red they are, or at least some of them are, with their fur fluffed out to try and retain as much body heat as they can. Now, last night would have been a very scary evening for this impala herd. With the wind howling and with no kind of ambient light to help them see. Oof. I've forgotten what winter's like. But yes, with the wind howling and no light, no sense of smell, bushes rustling everywhere in the wind, and just imagine how nerve-wracking it must have been for them last night, with predators wandering about and howling or calling in the night. And of course now the females have to deal not just with the potential attentions of a predator, but also now the unwanted attentions of the males, who have started the impalas have started their rutting season. Now, this year's group of impala, the females, will be harassed by the males, but won't be ready to mate just yet. Linda, you were wondering when female impalas start to mate. This year's group that were born in December, January will start to mate next year for the first time. So what does that? It puts them at around a year and a half, maybe just a little bit over a year and a half. For the males, it's a slightly different story, because although their hormones are already flowing, and the little ones there giving us a good demonstration, trying to headbutt each other and learning to spar with those tiny little dagger horns, they will have to wait probably about 4 or so years before they are fully grown and ready to start off with their mating, or actually be able to have a chance to mate with the females. Oh, there you go. Told you, the animals are sneezing. It's the grass seeds. Bear with me 1 second. I think Mike is trying to call me. Go ahead, Mike. Sneezing again. Oh. Copy, no problem. Okay. Case of mistaken identity there. Now, somewhere, Sam's black-headed oriole is calling to him around here. I can hear them. I'm still trying to see if I can't spot them. Calling out a greeting, telling him, Sam, come and look for me once you leave the leopards. I don't know where they are, however. The wind is slightly interfering with my sense of direction. Bye-bye, impalas. Good luck with all things weather and hormone related. And it is a very distracting time for the impalas. They get so caught up in what's happening with each other that they don't pay as much attention as they usually do. Now, impalas are incredibly alert. When you're on everybody's menu out here, it pays to be concentrating on what's going on around you. I'm still trying to find this black-headed oriole. But I think it might be a little bit far away to show you. Okay. Well, we'll keep moving. I can't decide if I want to move or stay still. I hope Sam is quite happily contented, tucked away in the bushes with Tingana. There is something, look, I know that we exaggerate slightly because we're not used to the cold, and it does have a little bit of more of an impact on us than it might for other people in colder climes, but there really is something to be said for the wind chill factor, especially when you combine driving with the wind blowing. Definitely feels a little bit chilly. There's the male of the herd that was causing trouble when I first arrived. Oh, he's gonna hide away. Intently staring across at the females. And when I first stopped for those impala, there was one young female that was separated from the rest of the herd, probably thanks largely to his attentions. And when she tried to run past him back to the herd, he immediately started that, I don't know how to describe it, but a very funny grunting call. And while the impala look out alert on this windy day, let's head back over to Tingana and see how he's doing.
Welcome back, everyone. This is incredible. Look at how he's grooming himself there. Can you see what he's grooming? Yo, can you go close up onto that wound there, please, Brian? On his face. It's just
the closest you're gonna get.
Oh, is that the closest? Okay, cool. Can you guys all see? And he's grooming himself, and he has a little injury just to the, looks like to the left of his face, but you can't see it right now. Wow, what has happened? If anyone knows what the story is behind the injuries, please hashtag Safari Live, tweet us and inform us on what maybe has happened. You can see a little bit of red. Okay. So apparently it might actually be from the mating with Tandi. You know, Tandi can be quite vicious, and if we saw yesterday, I should have made the connection. You would have seen Tandi gets very vicious actually when they were mating. Ooh, big yawn. But it could very well be that Tandi during the mating, because of course male leopards have barbed penises, which means when they're going in, it is a very sore experience for Tandi, and she reacts in pain. So sometimes she might turn around and slash the male. But that does look like it's quite sore. But guys, this is really incredible. I'm so excited. This is the first leopard I've seen in a very long time, and just being in the presence of the leopard is almost making me go quiet. I'm just I love the design and the beauty of a leopard. To see the rosettes, very, very powerful looking animal, very dominant here in the bush, stands out significantly. You can just see he's grooming himself there. Wow. Yeah, you can quite clearly see the spot patterns now on the side. Wow. Zinkai, great observation that you're making here, that the leopard keeps licking its wound. Yes, it is very, very, very good for animals to lick their wounds at times, especially leopards and other cats, because that helps with the healing process of their wounds. It helps keep them clean and stop them from becoming infected. So yeah, saliva also has a antiseptic, if it may, to help the wound actually become clean and also heal better. So that's would be my answer to that question. I don't know if you've ever cut yourself or just on your finger. Sometimes I think when I cut my finger, which actually I have done recently, I often just lick my finger, or I lick the wound just to get the dirt out of it. Just right at the beginning there, and then I go and wash my mouth out, wash my finger out. Because, yeah, I mean, especially when I was a kid, when I was playing sports and all that sort of stuff, I often used to cut myself, and if it was generally on the fingers, I would never really go on my body somewhere and start licking myself, quite like what we are seeing here. But it is a very oh wow. So it could be, as Deborah, armchair traveler, is saying, that Jamie said that it could actually be from hunting. So these wounds that are present here could have been from when he was out in the bushveld looking for something to eat and injured himself in the process. So it could be either or, from the mating with Thandi or the hunting. But if I had to go with my intuition on what it actually is, I think it is from Thandi, just by watching the experience yesterday between the two. They really were going, or they were going at she was going at him after they were copulating, and wow, he is really looking after it there. I'm so glad, because I was told earlier that there were injuries and I couldn't quite see it, so he's actually quite pointing it out to us where he was injured and showing me where he was injured, so thank you for showing me that. But Deborah, I could quite agree with you that it could be from the hunting. The hunting can be quite a destructive experience, as it runs through the bushveld with the acacia thorns and everything that's out there. It is a rough environment out here. If you've noticed the acacia thorns on the trees, on the acacia trees, they're very long and very, very sharp, and they can cut quite easily into flesh. I've actually had that experience once when I was younger. I was running through the bushveld up in the Eastern Cape, which is a little bit south to where we are now. Ooh, what's happening here? Okay, so we've got some movements. And what are we going to do here? What are you doing? Just taking a little seat. It looked like he was about to go down and use the toilet, but it seemed that he was just moving around. But as I was saying, when I ran through the bushes, I fell onto an acacia thorn, and it was extremely, extremely, extremely sore. It looks like he's getting a little bit more active now. It's getting exciting, even though it's quite cold conditions out here. We've been given such an amazing sighting, such an incredible sighting for the first time here on WildEarthTV. I've been given the opportunity to sit with a male leopard. Thank you to all the viewers that are there with me at this experience, and I'll see you just now. Let's see what Jamie's up to.
A very exciting moment for Sam. It does sound as though poor Tingana is a little bit under the weather at the moment. I'm sure he will recover. The animal's ability to recover from injuries is absolutely astounding when compared to ours. For example, I've seen injured giraffe like the one that we're looking at. Using that long. Did you see that brief glimpse of the long tongue coming out there? And how long it is. It's a possibility, Jeffrey, since we are looking at this giraffe and we stopped at that giraffe bone, at the bone, unidentified bone. Jeffrey was wondering if it could possibly be a giraffe bone that we had found possibility, but in my experience, I have seen giraffe carcasses before and giraffe bones, and they tend to be quite a lot longer in terms of the ratio between the width and the length. So I think probably not. Ooh, the rollers are having a discussion. I was hoping they were going to do their rolling display. Jean-Dre, of course, being the master at capturing those on camera. That's probably a male and a female displaying to each other. The lilac-breasted rollers with their long, spindly tail feathers. Our giraffe now reaching down to have a bit of a scratch and a rub. It's interesting how animals come and they go. It's been a while since I've last seen a giraffe. Okay, it sort of works in waves. Zebra come and then disappear again. Giraffe are there and then they disappear again, just moving according to wherever there's better food resources. So Jeffrey, it could be a giraffe, but I don't think so. I think just by the length versus the width, it is probably not. I think most likely it is a part of that elephant foot. This is a young giraffe. Red, you were wondering how old I think it is. I'm going to try reposition so we can get another view of it. It's a young giraffe. It's not nearly as tall as a fully grown adult. It looks like a young female. And my guess would be, no, it's a young male. It is a young male. I was struggling to see that earlier. Its ossicones looked so thick. But now, seeing it at profile view, you can see the penis sheath on the bump of the stomach. So this is a very young giraffe. I mean, it's probably, Red, if I had to guess, and it would be a guess, I would guess at around a year old, maybe a year and a half. It does take them a while to reach their full size. And it just goes to show that you can't always, we always talk about how giraffe darken with age, and they do. The males most definitely do. But this is a relatively young giraffe and it's still got quite a dark coat colour already. So a young bull with its accompaniment of oxpeckers on the back of the neck there as always. A young camera shy bull. Oh, now the hornbills are shouting. That wonderful rocking flight where they flap, flap, flap and then tuck their wings closed. They're not closing their wings as much as they would normally. And Catherine and many others, unfortunately now my view has disappeared, but Catherine's just commenting on the size of the impala when compared to the giraffe and how incredibly tiny they look. And I mean, it's very difficult to get a sense of scale. I've seen giraffe my entire life. I've grown up in South Africa, I've seen giraffe, and I've only in the last few years, when I started working on a reserve in the Kalahari, that I really, really, truly got an impression of the scale of a giraffe, and that was because we were doing giraffe capture, and I ended up standing next to one. And even though you see them from a vehicle, you are so familiar, you know rationally how tall they really are. Seeing one like that up close is a very powerful reminder. So when I say giraffe capture, what I mean is we were catching them to transfer them to a different reserve so that they could start up a population there. So essentially what that means is just darting them with a little bit of anesthetic and popping them on the back of a truck, although they are then woken up so that they are not asleep, but they are sedated for the journey. And they were moved across to a different area. At this point, only the top of this little male's head is poking out. So yes, the impala looks so tiny in comparison. But this is still a very tiny, not a tiny giraffe, but quite a small giraffe. Our spotted creature has disappeared behind the bushes, but Sam's has not, so let's head back to Tingana.
Tingana is walking through the veld now, slowly through this grass bed here, just getting ready to start his morning. It's so exciting. Welcome back to this sighting here with Tingana. It's my first sighting here with this male leopard. It's my first sighting here with the male leopard, and as you can see, the male leopard has just gone under the brush here. I'm going to try and keep my voice down as much as possible, as I don't really want to affect its movements through. So we're going to just sit in silence, and I'll note something every now and then. But let's just have a look and see what he's going to get up to and how is he going to move into this bushveld. And let's notice the kind of things that he's doing and how is he thinking. My guess is that he's actually moved because the wind actually started to pick up, so he's now moved into the brush to try and get away from that wind that is blowing, because it is quite a chilly morning here in the sands. Felicity has just asked me, was the last place that Tingana was resting in quite an exposed place compared to where Tingana is now? And yes, it was fairly exposed. We can have a look to where it was over there, and we can show you a bit later. Can you have a look at the clouds and show the environment, everyone, Brian? It is a chilly day here in the Savi Sands. Those clouds will only show you a picture of the chilliness, but if I can try in my words to describe, it is the coldest day that I have had since I've been here. Hence you can see my beanie on, and you can see a scarf on Brian's thumb. So these are all indicators that it is quite a chilly morning. So Tingana is trying to find cover as best as he can, and he's doing a great job at it. Those eyes are so incredible. This truly is a remarkable sighting. We are not quite sure where Thandi is at the moment, and there is every chance that Thandi might come back at some point to continue mating with Tingana. But it has, as I've been told, that it's been a few days. I think it's 3 or 4 days that they've been mating, and so that is tiring. And you can see, we watched Tingana move from the exposed area to this place under the trees, and he was moving and he looked in a lot of pain, or either really, really tired or in a lot of pain. I think it might be both that he is experiencing at the moment. So hopefully, if we're lucky, we're going to have Thandi popping out at some direction and greeting Tingana. But as you can see, he's continuing to lick some of those wounds. So my guess is that he's probably going to sit underneath this brush for a bit longer to just get out of the wind and just try and recover from the last few days with Thandi. As I've also been told, that he's had a number of females coming in at different stages trying to get his gene. So he is definitely a tired man at this stage. Kathy from Tennessee just asked a really interesting question that I am not sure of. The question was, is the front paws of a leopard much bigger than the back paws of the leopard? At this point in time, I'm actually not quite sure on that. that answer, but I can. Sorry, I don't mean to get in the way. My bad. I just want to have a look at the mammals book and see maybe if we can have a look at the tracks of a leopard, and potentially it'll show us the difference between the front paws and the back paws of the leopard. So let's have a look here. I'm going to put it up on the dash so that it's easier to have a look at. These are a number of different tracks on the book, and the top left, that is our leopard track. But it seems that would be the yeah. So we can see that it's much bigger in the front. You can see that the front one is much bigger because it's actually carrying all the weight of the leopard compared to that one of the back. So it's a really interesting observation to make, and to see that the front paws are a lot more powerfully driven than that of the back. Yeah, so that's that. So thank you for asking that question. I am learning something every single day while I'm out here in the bushveld, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. It is fantastic. Wow. You can really see that he is so tired this morning. And as we sit here with the leopard, I can still hear the sounds of the bushveld. Are you able to hear some of those sounds that are coming around? I've heard the orange-breasted bush shrike and a number of birds in this area. So even though I'm sitting here with the leopard, I'm very aware of some of the birds that are chirping around us, and hopefully when we get an opportunity to spot another one, we can have a look. But just with connecting birds with leopards, I think that's a very important thing to bring out, is that birds are a strong indicator and can tell you where you are in the bushveld in terms of tracking a leopard. If you are walking and all of a sudden you hear an alarm call of a bird, that will most likely be an indicator of a predator walking in that direction. Sometimes that bird call will be actually alarming at a snake rather than a predator, so you could be confused. But that's a good relation to make when you're walking out in this bushveld, to be able to understand and hear the sounds of the different birds. But guys, it's been such a great little experience watching Tingana come into his little holding here, and it's probably going to be that he's going to be relaxing here for a bit. I'm going to say thank you for Jamie to help me find the sighting here with my first male leopard here in the Sabi Sands. Jamie is sitting with some zebra. Let's go and see how she's doing, and I'll see you just now.
We chatted a bit about zebra earlier, or at least mentioned them. Now we've got a lovely comparison of scale between that female giraffe and the zebra in front of her, or now behind her, as she walks past them. A lovely, full-grown, in this case, female giraffe, quite light in colour. I'm sure I recognise that female. We do start to get to know individual giraffe as well. And I've been giving them plenty of space, just because it is so windy today that most animals on a day like today, when they see you coming, go dashing off rapidly into the bush, like our giraffe male did earlier. Here's another two. Also look like young females. Megan, you were saying you cannot believe that a giraffe could be possibly considered to be general game since they are so unique. Very good point. I mean, we do refer to them as general game, just largely due to numbers more than anything else, as that kind of description applies to. And part of the bovids, or they all fall under the heading of the ruminants, so buffalo, giraffe, and then all of our antelope species. But that's a very good point. They are unique, they are iconic in the African bush. And in my opinion, the longer you stare at them, the weirder they start to look. I don't know what it is, but if you look at them for a really long time, and maybe it's because I'm South African, so I've always taken these sorts of animals for granted, but I've noticed, particularly since I've started these live safaris, and I've spent the amount of times that I have spent with the different animals, they really do start to look weird. I mean, with her walking right side, then left side, then right side, then left side, totally unlike any other animal, except, of course, the camel that walks in that way. And you know what? Funnily enough, Megan, there are local villages all around reserves like this with kids that have grown up right living next door to a game reserve, but yet have never had any experience coming into them. And whenever I've taken kids out on a game drive that have come from the sort of the local schools or the local orphanages, the first thing they want to see and the thing that they get the most excited about is a giraffe. Giraffe and zebra. Now we've got this very sort of big five oriented, well, we don't, but there is within tourism a very big five oriented perception that being out in the bush means you have to see lions and you have to see leopards, and it's incredible to see those animals. It's wonderful. But animals like giraffe are just as unique and just as fascinating. And of course you were wondering in particular, how does a giraffe sleep? Do they lie down? And the answer is yes, they do. They fold their legs up under them and they drop their bodies onto the ground. And we have occasionally seen them on our live safaris asleep. That being said, they never put their heads down. So their heads remain upright in that position. And there's a very, very good reason for that, and that is because their blood vessel circulatory system and everything within their body is constructed to push blood up against gravity. And in fact, when they do lower their heads below the level of their heart, they can actually faint, which is why you never see giraffe drinking for longer than sort of 30 seconds at a time. And it is not unheard of for giraffe to fall over and faint if they get that timing wrong. Look how tiny this little giraffe is in comparison to the adult that walked past earlier. She's also a very young female. This might even be our calf that we've watched grow up over the last few months. Now the reason that it's not tiring for them, Megan, to sleep like that whilst holding their heads up is they actually physically don't hold their heads up. There is a tendon that runs down the back of the neck and connects to the shoulders that does that work for them. All that they have to do, the only time they really have to contract muscles is if they want to lower their head closer to the ground. But now we're seeing quite a nice comparison between, if we look at this adult first, the proportion of the neck to the legs, and the way in which they're shaped. And Megan, I can feel it happening to me already, that sudden sense of just how peculiar giraffe really are. But then if we have a look at the youngster on the left-hand side, you can see how much shorter the neck is in comparison to the body when compared to the adult giraffe shape. Their legs are nice and long, but the neck is much, much shorter. And there's a very good reason for that. First of all, they need to be able to reach up underneath the females to suckle. But then at the same time, oh, stretch little one. Oh, was that a little bit out of your reach? Then at the same time, whilst they need that short neck to be able to suckle with their mums, they also need the long legs to be able to keep up with her. Now, I mentioned that I think I recognize this female. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the female with her calf that we've seen from an incredibly young age. I think the first time I saw it was around November last year, and it's slowly growing up in front of our eyes. But Monkey Man, absolutely. Monkey Man has just commented about how much he loves the fact that each giraffe just looks so unique. Big ones, small ones, different spot patterns, some with stars instead of spots. Bulky, not so bulky. And I know quite a few of our viewers are able to identify the individual giraffes of this particular area. Some even have names. Now, this is actually quite a nice opportunity, if that giraffe will stay, to maybe get a sense of scale as to just how tall it is. I'll have to wait until she moves off, but let's try and get a little bit closer. Let's try and turn the immobilizer off first. And what I'm going to do is, when she does move off, is I'm going to go and stand underneath that tree where she is standing, and we'll see if we can't get a bit of a real sense of the scale. Now, my zebra are... Oh! I just want to duck down and hide. Wind howling across. Oh, there's a buffalo. I definitely won't be standing next to that tree. Most definitely will not be standing next to the tree. All plans are cancelled. There is a buffalo behind the giraffe, and I would very much prefer not to meet him on a dark, windy day. They get particularly unpleasant in weather like this. There you can see him moving at the back. Right, that changes my plan. We'll have to take a rain check on that scale comparison. Now, this one stretching up to feed is actually a young male. So another young male within this group, reaching up for those leaves right at the top there, nice, fresh and green, using that incredibly nimble tongue to stretch up. And as we watch the giraffe feed, our zebra have almost all disappeared. But Michael, who is 13 years old, was wondering about zebras' shadow stripes and why they have them. And of course, only the plain zebra have shadow stripes. And what Michael means by that is the thin brownish, slightly lighter colored stripes you can just see if you look behind the giraffe. Never mind. He moved his bottom at exactly the wrong moment. The plain zebra, the species of zebra that occurs here, has distinctive shadow stripes in between the thicker stripes of the bottom and the back. Michael, I have absolutely no idea why they have shadow stripes. It's one of their main identifying features, and it might have been, and of course every zebra, just like our giraffe and Monkey Man's comment, every zebra looks different. Every zebra is unique, has its own fingerprint pattern of stripes. Some have more clear shadow stripes than others. And if we think about it, we barely know. We have a couple of theories, but we don't really fully understand exactly why it is zebras have stripes. The most predominant theory is the camouflage effect, but there's also theories about the possibility that they act to disrupt the landing of insects. The only thing I can suggest, Michael, is that perhaps it is because, or perhaps it was at a time when there was a genetic bottleneck of zebra, and that of course is how the quagga came to be in existence. It's a subspecies of the plain zebra. It is now extinct, which is very sad. It was almost like, it is described to me as a child as a half horse and half a zebra, without any stripes on the backside. But the more you see zebra, Michael, the more you sort of see how some have stripes that are very thin and faded and almost non-existent. Some are very thick, bold stripe patterns. And I guess that's where the shadow stripes came from, was that difference in patterns. I'm going to hang out here for a bit. It seems to be quite a nice spot. See if my buffalo won't decide to leave so I can go stand next to the tree. But let's head back across to Tingana for now.
The leopard is just under the brush and is sleeping. Is so tired. You can see I was sitting just with the pride of lions, the Nkumu pride, the other night where they were sleeping, and they looked in very, very deep sleep the other night. And just looking here at the leopard, you can see that he is looking like he is super tired after a number of days of mating with Thandi in the bushveld. It's must be quite a tiring experience, and he's just recovering and resting as we sit here. a question that was super interesting is understanding the way in which, birds alarm on the leopard. I'm just going to relate it to. So Natasha's asking this question. She's asking, do all birds alarm call at leopards when they see them? And that answers a no. From what I understand, there's a few birds that really make a loud noise when you go tracking, and that for me, just looking at my bird list here, I don't know if any of you guys have been here for looking at the birds. It's my little book, and what I've seen is we've seen the magpie shrike, we've seen the red-bill oxpecker, we've seen the black-smith plover, we've seen the crested franklin, the barn swallow, the Burchell starling, and the grey lory, or turaco, otherwise more formally known as. And the grey lory makes a significant alarm call often when we're out there. That was the one thing that often used to tell me that there was something around. And the crested franklin. The crested franklin makes a huge noise, and particularly because it's a land dwelling bird, so it can't actually move that well through the veld or fly away. So it has a very, very sharp alarm call when the leopard's around. So that's the bird list at the moment, and it's growing slowly but surely as the days go by, and it's been really, really exciting to learn more about this bushveld. As I told everyone, I haven't been here for a while, so to remember and start seeing the birds that I haven't seen for a while is really uplifting and giving me some courage and confidence. And hopefully we'll be able to see another bird before the end of drive. We're going to be heading out of here just now, and we'll see if we can find a bird. But it's been incredible sitting here with Tingana, learning a little bit more about his way of life and seeing the wounds that he has and what he's doing and what he might be doing. My guess is that Tingana is going to be sitting under the bushveld for a while and potentially get up a little bit later to go and feed, because he must be quite hungry, and in order to actually recover he needs to get a good meal. So hopefully when we come back a little bit later there might be a little bit more activity, and we'll see what will happen. But otherwise it's been fascinating to learn a little bit more of the life of Tingana and to talk a little bit more about the birds that we may potentially see. At this moment, myself and Brian and his thumb, who is very warm with the scarf on, are going to go off and see what else we can find. Enjoy the rest of the drive with Jamie, and we'll see you now.